Well, it's 6 p.m. and I'm going to call to order the Board of Directors meeting for South Granville Water and Sewer Authority for May 13th, 2025. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you here tonight. Thank you for showing up. And our big thing on our agenda tonight is the public hearing for the budget. And with that, we'll go to our roll call. Oh, I forgot to mention, Creedmoor Commissioner Robert Way may not be here with us tonight. He's in lockdown at work. So he can't leave the building, not till they clear whatever's going on over there. But anyway, if you will, Crystal, break the roll call, please.
Commissioner Gooch.
Present.
Commissioner Kaczynski.
Present.
Commissioner Way is not currently with us. Councilperson Daniels.
Present.
Councilperson Cheek.
Present.
Commissioner McLam.
Present.
Commissioner Karen.
Present.
All are accounted for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now for our invocation, go to Commissioner Tim Karen.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, as we come together this evening to conduct the business of SGWASA, we hope that you're with us and guide our hearts and our minds, and that our actions are pleasing in your sight. As we heard before, Father, please pray for Robert Way and all of the Wake Med staff as they go through their trials and tribulations with their lockdown, that everything comes to a peaceful and pleasant outcome for all involved. Father, thank you for all those blessings that you've bestowed upon us, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Father, we know that you've got a plan for each and every one of us. We are just servants in your midst. All these things I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And now our Pledge of Allegiance led by Butler Councilperson Judy Cheek.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Are there any adjustments to the agenda for tonight? If we don't have any adjustments to the agenda, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as stated. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Review and approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. I trust everyone's had a chance to go over the minutes. And is there any comments on the minutes? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. And public comments, we didn't have anyone sign up for public comments tonight. Okay, thank you. And now we move on to board discussion items. And I believe Vice Chair Kaczynski has a couple of reports.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to let the board know and citizens know that with the fire hydrants, there are over 400 fire hydrants in Creedmoor. And with the water testing that we're doing on the water in there, they are being flushed as we test them. And there are some repairs that need to be done to some fire hydrants in Creedmoor. But if this budget gets approved, the executive director and his assistant executive director are allocating for 2 people to be hired to keep that going. So I'm looking forward to that. And the second thing is that Creedmoor has done their second round of water testing, and all water testing results are within the allowable limits. That's all I got.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any items they'd like to bring up? If not, we'll move on to our next item, which is our National Public Works Week proclamation. And as we celebrate the 2025 American Public Works Association National Public Works Week from May 18th to May 24th, it is essential to recognize the invaluable contributions of the South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority employees. This week serves as a dedicated time to honor the hard work and dedication of public works professionals who ensure the seamless operation of our community's infrastructure. The employees of SGWASA play a critical role in maintaining and improving the water and sewer systems that are fundamental to health, safety, and quality of life for residents in South Granville County. Their expertise and commitment to excellence ensure that our water is clean and safe, our sewer systems are efficient, and our environment is protected. By acknowledging their efforts during National Public Works Week, we not only express our gratitude, but also highlight the importance of their work in sustaining the well-being of our community. And let us take this opportunity to celebrate the SGWASA employees and their unwavering dedication to public service. Thank you. And now for the proclamation. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people served by the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children served by the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, be it now resolved, I, Granville County Commissioner Jimmy Gooch, Chair of the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim May 18th through 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. And I have signed this, and I'd like to present it.
Team members, please come forward. Yes. Oh, yeah. I hadn't seen you before. I was waiting, but.
And Joel, can you go to the left this much?
Perfect.
All right.
Selfie.
There we go.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're up in the house. Good to see you.
It's getting there. Yeah.
It's getting there.
Thank you, team. Really appreciate it.
Bless you.
All right. Okay. Now, proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget review. Let me get the right page in my agenda. Sorry. The Board of Directors review and comments on the proposed 25-26 budget and provide the executive director with any changes. On April 11th and 25th, 2025, the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority Finance Committee held public meetings to review and discuss the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget as presented by the SGWASA Executive Director. The SGWASA Finance Committee members include Vicki Daniels, Butner Town Councilperson, SGWASA Board members, SGWASA Finance Committee Chair, Georgiana Kaczynski, City Creedmoor Commissioner, SGWASA Board Member, Vice Chair, SGWASA Finance Committee Member, Kenneth McLam, Stana Tim Commissioner, SGWASA Board Member, SGWASA Finance Committee Member, and me, Granville County Commissioner and SGWASA Board Member and Chair. Ms. Daniels, do you have, would you like, as chair of the Finance Committee, would you like to make any comments?
Sure. During the Finance Committee meetings, the Executive Director, Assistant Executive Director, Finance Director, Assistant Finance Director, and Human Resource Manager provided the committee members with a comprehensive review of the proposed year 25-26 budget. This detailed review enabled the committee members to actually participate in developing the final draft of the budget. At the conclusion of the April 25th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting, the members voted unanimously to approve the proposed year 2025-26 budget as modified by the committee. And following this approval, staff scheduled the required budget public hearing for May 13th, 2025 SGWASA board meeting. The public hearing was officially announced on SGWASA's website on April 28, 2025, and published in the Butner Creedmoor newspaper on May 2nd, 2025, and May 9th, 2025. And I would also like to say that the meetings that we had on April 11th and 25th, they were about 4 hours each time, and we thoroughly went through all the details, asked questions, and I think you will find and be pleased with the budget this year. We might have some questions to elaborate on, and I think you'll be interested in hearing those. So I'm glad that you are here for tonight's meeting.
Good. Thank you. And Executive Director Shroy, are you ready to give us the budget summary?
Why, yes, I am. Thank you, members of the board. And I'd also like to thank the Finance Committee members for all the time that you put into this so far and your input to help us build this proposed budget that we're going to speak of this evening. I would also like to welcome Richard Ballmer, our Finance Director, to the podium when it's appropriate. Richard, when you get some questions, please help me work through the budget summary. So this is an opportunity to bring this draft budget out of the committee with a recommendation and have an opportunity to discuss the full budget in depth as much as the board would like to this evening. And this item is placed ahead of the required public hearing, which follows this item afterwards. So I provided for you in our agenda this evening, starting at the bottom of page 18, a budget summary, trying to highlight for you what is in our budget. I would be happy to just kind of roll through all of these items. I'd be happy to stop at any point to ask questions, have conversation. Again, this is an opportunity for the board to look at our budget, ask the questions as we work towards a final budget approval moving forward. So at this time, I would like to just talk about the budget summary in front of you, starting on the bottom of page 18. The fiscal budget year, FY 25-26, is carefully designed to ensure it is balanced, meets the organization's debt obligations, and supports the annual operations of SGWASA's utility systems. Notably, the budget does not include a rate increase. Turning to total revenues and other funding sources, in this year's budget, we are proposing total revenues of $18,885,826. As you can see, there's a note that this is an increase of just over $2 million as compared to our current fiscal year, FY 24-25. In terms of our total expenditures, you can see that value of $18,885,826 matches our total revenues. And again, you can see the increase over the current fiscal year. Transfers from fund balance are proposed at $1,345,076, which is an increase of that total amount compared to our current fiscal year. Our water revenues and sewer revenues. We have on our water revenues projected to rise by $200,000 compared to our current fiscal year, and our sewer revenues are the same as they are projected to rise by $200,000 compared to our current fiscal year. In terms of capital revenue, an allocation of $2.5 million to support utility infrastructure asset depreciation at the set rate of 95%. Interest revenue has been increased by $417,460 compared to our current fiscal year to align with current projections. The total revenue budgeted is $850,000. I will stop at that point to see if the board members have any questions before I move on to the budget ordinance and fee categories.
Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you. So the budget ordinance. There is a text change proposed to be included in Section 3, and you will see on page 19 of your agenda, we have highlighted Section 3, and we actually have a strikeout and of a section. I will read this to you and give you the proposed change, which you can see, I think, indicated in red on your item here. The executive director shall have the authority to reallocate appropriations between line items, except for salary and benefits, within a department up to a maximum of $10,000. Such reappropriations must be recorded like other reappropriations and reported quarterly at a board of directors meeting after the funds are moved. All transfers must be in accordance with the North Carolina general statutes. The executive director shall not have any authority to appropriate fund balance or to increase total appropriations, and the finance director shall establish and maintain all financial records which are in accordance with this ordinance and in accordance with appropriate state statutes of the state of North Carolina. So again, you can see in that paragraph and on screen in front of you, if you scroll back up, please, Crystal, that we have a strike through as reported at a subsequent board of directors meeting, and we have inserted text to say quarterly at a board of directors meeting. During our discussion in our finance committee meetings, we had some good discussion about this and the appropriate timing for such, and we landed on a quarterly report, very similar to the quarterly reports that we do for the board on our financials. I will pause at that point to see if the finance committee members would like to add any discussion or comments to that.
I don't think anybody has anything.
Well, thank you. So let's move on to the fee categories. So all fee categories in the approved FY 24-25 schedule of rates, fees, and charges were reviewed to ensure alignment with the actual cost of service. No adjustment to the schedule of rates, fees, and charges is proposed for the FY 25-26 budget. The schedule is included in the proposed FY 25-26 budget. You do have a copy of that schedule as an attachment this evening, so we can go through that schedule if you would like to when we get to the end of this memo. The FY 25-26 proposed use of fund balance details. So we have 4 program areas. The first program area is a payroll transition cost, including pay, payroll taxes, NCLGERs, which is the retirement program, or 401k match, increased from 3% match to a 4% match in our budget at a total program cost of $163,000. The next program is a pay study implementation, including associated benefits. Total program cost for the pay study is $85,000. There's also a supporting memo provided for that program later on. The third program, proposed FY 25-26 capital outlay, total program cost $1,269,801. And then the last program is the proposed FY 25-26 repairs and maintenance at a total program cost of $254,775. So I think that you can tell from those last 2 program items with our capital outlay and also our repairs and maintenance, we are getting very aggressive with our repairs and maintenance and also investing in capital equipment to help us do more maintenance and be more efficient with the programs that we are offering. I can pause at that point to see if there are any questions or comments.
So about the payroll transition, in records showing the payroll transition was presented to the Finance Committee on 9/28/23, and stated implementation would be in February 2024 at a cost of $106,000. At the 11/14/23 meeting, the board voted unanimously for the staff to bring the associated options of cost back to the board. At the 12/12/23 meeting, the board executive director recommended that we move the start of the payroll change from February of 24 to September of 24. So it's been over a year since the original date of implementation. Where are we with this implementation?
Sure. Thank you for that question. And we did discuss this in the Finance Committee meeting. Our intent was to follow that schedule as you presented. We wound up with a somewhat lengthy legal review of the program and what we were proposing in terms of the payroll adjustments and the transition. At the same time, we were implementing the new Tyler Technology financial system, which also ties into this project quite well in terms of timekeeping and moving forward with that. Due to those two items and looking at our implementation of the new payroll system and the Tyler Technology financial software, we found it undoable, basically, to be able to move that program any sooner than what we scheduled. And we also have, I wouldn't say a collision point, but something we have to be aware of in terms of we calculate our benefits, our vacation hours on a calendar year basis. And what we have proposed with this schedule, similar to other schedules, is that we close out the calendar year in terms of the benefits and then implement this change basically following January of the following year. So we've advanced the schedule to that point. And I think that to your point earlier, in terms of the program costs and the increases, yes, there have been program cost increases just overall, just based on the amount of increases to salaries over the last year or so to bridge that gap for the payroll transition that the board has offered.
So where are we? Do we have a date for this payroll transition at all? Since the money's in this year's budget.
Yes, we do. In fact, our goal is to this fall work with our Tyler Technology program to get our payroll in terms of our timekeeping automation, because right now everything is manual via paper. So we will be able to uplift that technology and start using that technology, if you will, with the current system so that we can practice with it, iron things out, make sure we know how it works. And then in February of 2026 is when we will actually implement this change to the entire payroll system, which requires, it's a pretty heavy lift to actually move your pay period payroll checks from an end of a month to a middle of a month program. But that's what we're scheduled to do. And we wanted to make sure that we put this in the budget this year and had this discussion so the board was aware of this timetable, this program, and this program cost.
So the $163,000 will include the increase in salaries? That's not the contract cost. That's just, is that everything?
Yes, as we've talked about here, the payroll transition costs, including the payroll taxes, the retirement, the 401k match, from a 3% to 4%, which the board was proposing in this budget. Yeah, that's our total program cost for that period, for that transition for the employees that the board approved in concept.
All right. And the second question, the pay study implementation. Mm-hmm. Who did that pay study implementation for us?
I have a document in here for you on page 65. And I'd be happy to, of course, answer that question for you. So the pay study was conducted by the Piedmont Triad Regional Council at a total cost of $8,000. Okay. And at some point when we get to that, I'd be happy to go through that entire memo for the board if you'd like to review that.
Nope, that's good. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any additional questions? If not, I'd like to move on then to human resource topics. New positions proposed: 2 water distribution system utility maintenance techs and 1 utility inspector. So the 2 water distribution system utility maintenance mechanics. So this is a program task that we've been looking at for the last 2.5, 3 years. And I guess suffice to say is that in balancing our resource needs over the last couple of years, The board has approved positions for treatment operators, which we brought on last year. I greatly appreciate that, and several other positions prior to that. The maintenance program for our valve program, water distribution valve program, and our hydrant program has been termed, I would say, reactive versus proactive. And we've identified in the last couple of years through communications with the municipalities that we serve and the fire departments in the district that we need to do a better job in terms of the overall maintenance, flowing hydrants, inspections, the general maintenance that goes with those, in addition to valve exercising, which is basically our street valves. So when you look at the total program, as far as over 1,000 hydrants that we are to maintain and 1,000 plus valves in our distribution network that need to be exercised, because if a valve doesn't work during a water main break, we can't isolate a section and we have more customers out of service. So we've looked at this program. I thought this year, basically looking at our revenues and the demands on this type of service, to provide this program approach to the Finance Committee and request 2 distribution system utility maintenance mechanics that will focus primarily on those duties. So you'll have hydrant flushing, you'll have hydrant maintenance, you'll have painting, you'll have valve exercising, making sure that the landscaping is done or maintained around these hydrants throughout the area, and then be on a dedicated valve exercising program as well. So it's going to be a managed program with a greater level of service than what we've been able to provide. And also added to our budget, we have some supporting capital equipment in this budget as well to support this service, whether it be computers, handheld devices, valve operating machines, and I think there's one valve operating trailer for automation that's to assist these employees basically out in the field doing this maintenance. So overall, the program will greatly enhance our fire hydrant maintenance, the flows of our hydrants, the coordination with our fire departments in terms of the maintenance, and also overall hydrant flowing for water quality efforts around our area. So again, I thought it was appropriate financially to bring this to the board's attention this year and put it into our budget to move forward on that program. It'll be a great enhancement for us. And when they're not flowing hydrants and turning valves, they'll be assisting us with our water main breaks in the wintertime, those type of things. So a better system out there as far as our asset management is just better for us overall throughout the entire network. The utility inspector, the next position. So as we see an increase in the demand for inspections due to new construction, new development, which we see on our horizon, we felt some of it this year with a couple of subdivisions we were managing as far as the construction. We see the need to add or request at least one more utility inspector to work in our engineering department. Currently, there is no engineer, but we have a project manager. Joel's in our audience this evening, and Joel needs some assistance with our utility inspections in the field in coordination for the development, whether it be commercial or residential. So I think that the board will see over time that this is a position for demand. So as the demand increases and we have offsetting revenue that's paid by the developers for these inspections, you will see most likely an increase potentially over the next 5 years for maybe some additional utility inspectors to meet that demand. And then after that, it may fall off, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, but it's kind of a supply and demand situation. So we found ourselves in the need to set up a program this year and start moving in that direction as we anticipate construction that will be starting before, for example, the I-85 project, the sewer enhancement program, is finished in the next couple of years. That's what the positions, the 3 requested positions, are about this year in the budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding that.
Could we have a job description, position description for those?
You know, I'm not sure at this point. I'm just going to look to the audience to look at Priscilla, our HR manager, and say, have we developed that? I think we have. Have we not? Would you like to come forward and just speak on that briefly? Chris?
Yeah.
All right, Chris, our Assistant Executive Director.
Sure. So the position, which one would you like me to go through? One, both?
Both.
Both, okay. So the water distribution system utility maintenance mechanic, we already have job descriptions for that. We actually have utility maintenance mechanics now. And this will be just in addition to they already list in that hydrant maintenance, valve maintenance, water main breaks as needed, stuff like that. So we already have that job description as needed. Is there any specifics you'd like me to go through with that?
No, I think Executive Director gave us a good detailed description of that. If you already have that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What about the utility inspector?
Sure. Utility inspector is just that. It is a person who works in the engineering department for our project manager, and this person will do a variety of tasks. They will basically inspect all water and sewer lines as they go underground, valves, hydrants, to make sure everything's at grade, to make sure everything is properly grounded in place. They do. They help assist with back T-tests to make sure that that when you install water lines, they have to have back T-tests to make sure that they're safe. Water can be drank out of. Let's see. There's inspections of water services. So you have your meter box and you have the service line associated with that. We inspect that to make sure that everything is done properly, to make sure that the box is set at grade, to make sure the meter goes in place correctly. If there's any commercial or irrigation services, to make sure that the backflow is properly done behind the water meter, things like that.
So you already have that position description?
I do. I have it drafted, yes, ma'am. We haven't put it on the website officially.
Okay.
After this, we would.
So the inspector will actually have to note each step then?
It would be encouraged to know each step. Now,
to be able to inspect everything.
Yes, ma'am.
The
Yes, ma'am.
lines.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of these things that the utility inspector do, you can learn through distribution courses that you can take. So if you get your C distribution course, B, A, they all go through steps. Same thing with collections. They all go through steps in which you have to construct things to minimum state standards. And then if we have standards above and beyond that, then you would want to inspect it to those standards.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Well, thank you. So I'd like to continue with the human resources topics. Page 20, top of page 20, the health benefits. A couple of items here. Projected increases of 8% for medical premiums and 5% for dental and vision premiums. Again, these values are found within our budget. That's built our budget for this evening that we're presenting. An increase of 1% in the SGWASA matching contribution for the 401k program, making the total contribution of 4%. Continuing with the medical insurance out-of-pocket cap of $500 per month per employee. In terms of wage adjustments, a proposed 3% increase to the classification and compensation schedule. And continuing with an up to a 4% performance merit increase for employees determined by annual performance reviews. Looking at the next couple of items, we have insurance premiums, a projected 10% rise in property and liability insurance premiums. In terms of workers' compensation, a projected 20% reduction in workers' compensation insurance premiums. And then we have some required contributions, 0.75% increase mandated by the state of North Carolina for the local government employees retirement system. In this item, the compensation study we've just covered previously, but the pay and classification study indicates that using time and position adjustment results in a net total increase of $85,000. SGWASA staff recommends the pay and classification update expense be paid from available fund balance. And then we touched on the pay period payroll transition upgrade program. In the second bullet in that, I did mention briefly the proposed budget includes $11,000, just over $11,000 for automated timekeeping software and implementation. And this will be implemented in the fall of 2025, allowing employees to record and process their time via the new software automation. That pretty much concludes in the HR topics. Are there any questions by the board members?
So you just said the timekeeping software will be implemented in the fall of 2025. But before that, we were saying that the payroll transition and all that would be 26. So I'm a little confused.
Okay. Well, we thought it was a best practice to introduce the employees on the timekeeping software first before we actually made a payroll adjustment. We did not want to do both at the same time. It's just a little bit too much to manage. So we're putting ourselves in a position where we can kind of go from paper to plastic or digital, if you will, this fall and duplicate the timekeeping process, but automate it so that we can work through that over a couple of months, get everything smoothed out. So when it comes time for the actual payroll transition, that's all that we're managing at that time, not trying to teach people how to manage software and do those type of things. So we wanted some separation, so that's what we've created in this budget.
So one other question, Scott, and it's just a clarification on my part. We talk about the compensation study update, and then we talk about wage adjustments. So the compensation study update is the 3% increase? Because it says a proposed 3% increase to classification and compensation schedule. And then the pay and classification study indicates that using time and position adjustment results, we're not going to do an $85,000 increase and a 3% increase and a 4% merit increase.
All right. So the 4% merit increase is based on your annual evaluations. Right. Okay. So it's probably best to take that program and put it over here. It's a little bit separate, and then talk about the compensation classification study and then the proposed 3% increase to the schedule. So suffice to say, and we can jump into this in the memo at the end of this document, but we did our analysis. Part of our HR employee manual approved by and policy approved by the board talks about keeping up to date, basically, with all the position classifications and looking at the pay for our employees in terms of how it matches other employees and employers throughout the area. We performed that study earlier this year, came back with the information. We looked at, I think it was, I'll have to refer to the document, but I think 5 to 7 different agencies around us to look at that, and identified that there are some categories and some employees that need to be moved up or changed, modified based on their years of service, if you will, or time and position. And there's a certain subset of employees that need that, and there's other employees that don't need that at all. So what we're saying is we're recommending to the board that select group, if you will, of employees that were identified as being out of range or out of class for their position be moved up into the correct position or classification, the correct step. That's the $85,000 adjustment. Now, it's a subset of employees, so there's other employees that were not changed in that classification study. And as we've done on an annual basis since I've been here, is that we've had the opportunity for the board to approve 3%, 4%, 5% wage schedule adjustments. So what we're proposing is that for the remaining employees that were not part of that classification change, that we're proposing a 3% upgrade or COLA, if you will, for that subset. So you have two things going on here.
And I'm absolutely fine with that. And the way it was explained at the finance committee meeting and now, but the way it's in here, it looks like everybody's getting a 3% increase and everybody's getting a compensation study. So I would like it to be a little bit more specific about the fact that, because 5 years from now, somebody's going to come back to this document and say, oh, they were all supposed to get a compensation study increase and a 3%. And it's confusing if it stays the way it is. So if we could be a little bit more specific in the way we say it, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. I will work with my team to wordsmith that and share it with the finance committee members, just so that we can get a final version that meets your needs, if you're okay with that.
I mean, if it just said a proposed 3% increase classification and compensation schedule to those not involved in the compensation study update, somehow word it that way so it's specific.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else before I move on to CIP, Capital Improvement Program? All right. So Capital Improvement Program, CIP, proposed plan update. So the 10-year plan, the FY25-35 capital improvement plan, will be updated in July 2025 and then presented to the Board of Directors in August 2025 for their review. Now, the reason we do this is we look at closing out in this current fiscal year our current capital improvement projects to see what fund balance remains. We also look at the projections of revenue or money that will go towards our next fiscal year CIP. That information is shared from finance to basically engineering, the executive director, and then we modify and fine tune our CIP to match available dollars. So it's a little bit challenging to take our schedule at this point in time. We have a board approved 10-year CIP with our projects listed on it. It's a little bit challenging to just present that at this point without having those dollars that we know that we're going to use in that program. So I think we started this program last year or so. We do this after we close out the current fiscal year so that we have those known dollars for the program. Now, I will remind the board when we get to that point in August to discuss that you'll see that we have a couple of lean years because of the money that we have dedicated to the I-85 project. So that's all built into the schedule. So that will be coming up later this summer after we close out our current fiscal year. In terms of the attachments, we have 3 exhibits, A, B, and C. So our first exhibit A is the proposed FY25-26 budget book, which includes the schedule of rates and fees. So you will see starting on page 22 that we have the budget booklet, which includes the budget message by the executive director on page 25, a summary of really the items we just covered regarding the budget summary. And then starting on page 30, we have the budget ordinance to go through. And then there's various charts and graphs for you. So is there anything specific that the board would like to discuss regarding that first section or that first attachment?
So the transfer from the fund balance. I have the Finance Committee meeting from April 25th, and it shows that the transfer from fund balance is $1,330,076, and now it's up to $1,345,076.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between those two? What change was in between?
Richard, you want to come forward? I think I can answer that, but I would prefer that you answer that.
So, as you recall from the end of that meeting, the board finance committee asked us to change the budget from 3%, 401k match to 4%.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion that will change your fund balance use by exactly $15,000 was the projected budget increase.
Okay.
So that's your difference in that draft and this proposed.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions on that?
Thank you, Richard.
Any other questions?
The page 35, repair projects and capital outlay. So we provided for you beginning on page 36 of our agenda, our proposed budget for repairs and maintenance identified in our budget account 352. So you will see basically on that schedule, scrolling down, our first items are populated for the water treatment plant with a raw water variable frequency drive pump at $9,600, rebuild a raw water pump for $20,000, and sludge removal from an old tank on site at $66,000. Moving down the schedule, we have at our wastewater treatment plant paving or resurfacing work in the facility itself at $30,000. And then you can see in our pump station, lift stations, and tanks department 8,000 various items, including the Lake Road Creedmoor Water Booster Station ATS replacement, B Street number 1 pump station replaced discharge piping, Little School Street fencing around the pump station, and a generator motor for the old 75 Riverton location. On the next page, we have capital outlay for our accounts 510 and 520. I will not read down through that entire list for you, but I will highlight for you that we have under our 7118 engineering, we have an item for some pressure data loggers. This is associated with our hydrant program that we talked about previously, as well as some flow testing diffusers at 2.5 inches. We also have, on the water treatment plant, replacing the Lake Holt generator at just over $133,000. Our AC system is not working at our water treatment plant. You can see the cost for that at $95,000. We have some upgrades for some technology for our meter readers to align with better work management and mobile management associated with the new technologies that we're installing both in the field and also in the back office for financial software and meter reading. And then you will see a majority of items for our water line maintenance budget area, 7139, including a mini excavator replacement and the associated trailer. We have some horizontal boring tools used to install water lines. We've got some ring saw equipment with blades. That's basically to help us in the wintertime with our water main breaks to cut through pipes. We have a utility warehouse evaporator and cooler, jackhammer, portable valve turning key, and then the portable valve exercise machine trailer mount at $92,000. That's an integral part of our increased service for our valve exercising program. So this is a machine that helps us basically track and exercise the valves that we have out in the streets for valve maintenance. I'm not sure if you've ever had the opportunity to turn a valve open and close. Okay, you would appreciate this valve exercise machine. It can be a very laborious task to turn a valve, depending on the size. The diameter of the valve can be anywhere from 12 turns to 30 turns. Would you say, Chris? Just looking at you.
It's 3 turns per inch plus or minus 3. So
okay.
Yeah, it can be up to.
That's a lot of turns.
Yeah.
Up and down, exercising a valve. So we'll be much more efficient with this valve exercise equipment.
Up to 75 turns.
Thank you, Joel, because Joel's turned those, and so has Robert. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. Yep. And you've been out there on those water main breaks doing that too. So moving on to page 38, additional sewer line maintenance. We've got some upgrades for equipment for replacing trucks. We're moving up in size from F-250 style to 350 with cranes. Currently, our machines or our vehicles do not have the cranes on the truck to be able to lift the heavy equipment in and out of the pump stations. We have a replacement tractor and also a mower attachment for managing our sewer and water outfalls. A big item here is the sewer bypass pump. We have a very old sewer bypass pump that's currently in operations and kind of on its last leg. So we look at replacing that bypass pump this year, and also it'll be a quieter model. I know that I've communicated with the board recently about our current sewer pump and how loud it is when you have to run that after hours. And also proposing to replace our sewer line jet vac with a new one. So again, I think that just in our sewer line maintenance and water line maintenance, I think it's very obvious to the board and also to the public, our increase in our maintenance activities and what we're doing with our programs to reinvest basically into our utility and increase customer service. Moving on to the 7145 wastewater treatment plant, some replacement of some equipment, lone worker system, advanced safety monitoring system for increased safety for our operators working alone or late shifts. And then we have some additional lab equipment for the items from there forward, if you will. So, and last but not least, the 8,000 pump and lift station account at 8,000, the little School Street generator replacement. So I think that you can see that these are the needs of the organization, and we thought it was appropriate with the increased revenues that we saw from our interest income this year that was not programmed to actually take advantage of that in fund balance and reinvest it back into the utility, and that's what we have here. Chris will be happy to answer any detailed questions you have about any and all that equipment. He managed that for us, so appreciate that, Chris and team.
Yeah, it seems like you're buying a lot of equipment here, but it's much needed equipment.
So Scott, the two utility maintenance, water distribution maintenance mechanics, do we have trucks for these people? Or do we need to add, are we going to have to add more trucks to this? Or vehicles of some sort?
So if you look on page 38 of the document, it says replace 2017 F-250 with F-350 with crane.
Yep.
And there's two of those. We're proposing to use those two F-250s for the utility maintenance people for a time period.
So we'll surplus the two that we have right now?
No, you put them back.
We will repurpose them.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It says replace, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Technically, it's a replace for that department. Because sewer line, so the sewer line, that's within sewer line, so it's replacing that vehicle, and then we will repurpose the whole vehicles
to the water
line maintenance.
And we have no air conditioning at the water treatment plant?
We don't.
Can we do that faster?
Well, I think that as soon as the board approves the budget, we can move in that direction. So we can get moving on that tomorrow if the board approves it this evening. So
Is that fast enough? Thank you, Chris.
Any other questions?
next item on page 39 of your agenda, the schedule of rates, fees, and charges. We have not made any changes to that document. That is currently the approved version. I think, well, actually, we have made a change. We changed the colors from blue to green just because we were looking at blue books for 3 years. So we said, let's do a color change. So at least we know we're looking at the right book. So I'd be happy to review any section or any item with the board.
If there's no changes, is there any reason to review?
This booklet that you have, the schedule of rates, fees, and charges, is a companion document to the budget. So when the board approves the budget, we actually request that you approve this at the same time in a motion when we get to that point.
Is that agreeable with everyone? Okay.
Moving forward, page 63 of your agenda, the next two pages, Exhibit B, organizational charts, current and proposed. So I wanted to provide to you a review of the current chart. You have that on page 63. And the board has approved in our current fiscal year 49 FTEs, full-time equivalents, 0 part-time equivalents or PTEs, 0 contract, and 1 was unfunded. If you turn to page 64, you can see the proposed organizational chart with positions. And if you see at the top left corner highlighted, requested in our current budget, 52 FTEs, 0 PTEs, 0 contract, and 1 unfunded. So our unfunded position is our utility engineer operations manager. We've had many challenges trying to fill that position the last couple of years. I was requesting and discussed this with the finance committee. I do not want to remove the position. I simply want to keep it on the chart and keep it unfunded this fiscal year. And we will determine later on this fiscal year how to proceed with that position, how to advertise, hopefully get ourselves set up for next fiscal year with a candidate in that position. We need that position. We've had a challenging time finding candidates for that position. Moving down the schedule, you will see a green box highlighted that says utility inspector, 1 new position added to that under the project manager. So those are basically our 2 ads that align with our budget request.
I have one question, Sal. Why is it difficult to fill that engineering position? What is the challenge been?
There, in the last couple of years, I would say, post-COVID, there's been such a demand for professional engineers that it has driven the market rate up substantially, supply and demand. And we are basically kind of priced out of the market at this point. The compensation study and the schedule change that's proposed for the board to review and approve, make some adjustments to that area. So we may be getting closer to being competitive. But it's just a challenging marketplace. A lot of the younger engineers, if you will, are going to the larger firms. A lot of the firms that we have under contract. So it's nice working with them, but I believe that we'll have a greater success, and we've proven that by having somebody on board helping us to manage all these projects as well, and that oversight and coordination. Presently, Chris and I are doing that, and Joel as well. So we'll continue to do that this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Exhibit C on page 65, the pay study and position classification schedules. This is a background memo. I thought it was important to bring this forward to the board. The background talks about in 2019, the Board of Directors approved a resolution approving the updated South Granville Water and Sewer Authority personnel policy. The board adopted the policy, the position classification plan, and Section 7 maintenance of the classification and pay plan recommends that reviews are needed approximately every 5 years due to changes over time in job duties and market pay changes. So we included in our current fiscal year budget funding in our HR department to perform this classification study. We started the study in August of 2024 and completed this in late 2025, just in time for us to have discussions and look at how we are going to possibly recommend some changes and add them into our budget. The total cost of the study was $8,000 and was conducted by the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. In terms of the analysis section, you can see that the Triad Regional Council looked at pay and job classification information from surrounding utilities and communities, and they're listed there. These agencies were selected for the benchmarking because SGWASA competes with these entities for top employment talent. I'm not sure how much more that you would like to know about the pay study. We did look at a recommendation. SGWASA strives to remain competitive within the current market, yet in a fiscally responsible way. Through this analysis, there were recommendations for increasing pay for 27 of SGWASA's 49 board-authorized positions. Based on all the data associated with the classification and pay study, SGWASA staff recommendation is to implement the pay changes aligned to the scenario for time of position for those employees who are identified as being out of alignment relative to the pay and class in their position. The net increase for this classification pay study adjustment is $85,000 and would adjust 27 employees to align with the market salaries and or 57% of our employees. So again, we've included this information and this increase in our budget and have recommended this as far as funding in this year's budget. In terms of the attachments to that pay study, you can see on page 67 the current classification scale that's approved by the board, listing all the grades, the status, the classification, the minimum, midpoint, and maximum of those grades. N equals non-exempt and E is exempt as far as the employees and their classification. And then on page 69 and 70, we have the proposed classification scale, effective July 1st, 2025. That concludes that item. I would be happy to answer any and all questions related to the information that was presented. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, team members, for supporting me during that presentation.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Now, notes here, it says the proposed change in wording is not actually an adjustment to the, that's not an adjustment to the budget. It's just a change in wording that was suggested. Am I correct there?
So are you referring to page 19 of the agenda?
21.
Page 21. Okay, so as far as the recommendations, if adjustments are made to the proposed fiscal year budget by the Board of Directors this evening, then staff will make the necessary adjustments to the proposed budget and prepare an updated proposed budget to be presented to the Board of Directors at their June 10th board meeting. Another option is if no adjustments are made to the proposed budget by the Board of Directors, then the Executive Director requests the Board of Directors consider approving the proposed FY 25-26 budget. Now keep in mind that we have a public hearing that actually follows this item. So not necessarily looking for action on this item tonight. Normally what we do is we have a budget public hearing, and then the board actually considers approving the budget at a time past the public hearing. So we still have a public hearing to get through this evening. That's the next item, I believe.
Yes.
And then we can have additional conversation should the board wish following that. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So that's all I have for that item. Mr. Chair, if you care to move on to agenda item 11.
Yes. And this is our public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget. Now, we will have our hearing tonight, public hearing on the budget. At our June meeting, we will adopt the budget. That'll be a separate vote. Okay, and the requested action is the Board of Directors approve the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And we have our presenters for our public hearing is our Executive Director, our Finance Director, and Board Chair, Treasurer. And in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 159-12, filing and publication of the budget B, before adopting the budget ordinance, the board shall hold a public hearing at which time any persons who wish to be heard on the budget may appear. The public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget has been publicly noticed on the SGWASA website on 4/26/25 and in the Butler-Creemore newspaper 5/2/25 and 5/9/25. All those presenting public comments must abide by the public comment procedures approved by the SGWASA Board of Directors. And I will call the public hearing to order. And the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget ordinance will be read aloud for the record. And I think, Crystal, you have a video for us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
This is a presentation of the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority Annual Budget Ordinance for 2025 to 2026. It is estimated that the following revenues will be available in the Water and Sewer Fund for the fiscal period beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. In comparison to the approved FY 24-25 budget, the FY 25-26 water sales and sewer use charges were estimated using a revenue increase of $200,000 for water, a revenue increase of $200,000 for sewer, and a $1,269,801 increase for capital. Revenues are listed as $6,500,000 for water revenues, $9,550,000 for wastewater revenues, $640,750 for non-billing revenue, $850,000 for interest income, $0 for other financing sources, $1,345,076 listed as transfer from fund balance, with total revenues and other financing sources at $18,885,826. The following amounts are hereby appropriated in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund for the fiscal period beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. Expenditures are listed as $1,333,251 for the Administration Department 7110, $167,276 for the Human Resources Department 7114, $639,816 for the Engineering Department 7118, $581,955 for the Billing and Collections Department 7120, $2,697,891 for the Water Treatment Plant Department 7113, $2,719,764, Wastewater Treatment Department 7145. For utilities, $181,448 for the Meter Reading Department 7136, $1,298,747 for Water Line Maintenance Department 7139, $1,659,487 for the Sewer Line Maintenance Department 7140, $1,039,164 for pump stations and towers, $2,802,292 for Depreciation Board and Other Department 7200, $23,500 for Projects and Studies Department 7300, $3,741,235 for Debt Service Department 7500, bringing total expenditures to $18,885,826. The grand totals of estimated revenues and other financing sources and expenditures, as well as other financing uses for all funds for the fiscal period beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026 are shown on screen. Reading as such: revenues $18,885,826, with expenditures also totaling $18,885,826. The Executive Director shall have the authority to reallocate appropriations between line items except for salary and benefits within a department up to a maximum of $10,000. Such reappropriations must be recorded like other appropriations and reported quarterly at a Board of Directors meeting after the funds are moved. All transfers must be in accordance with the North Carolina General Statutes. The Executive Director shall not have any authority to appropriate fund balance or to increase total appropriations. The Finance Director shall establish and maintain all financial records which are in accordance with this ordinance and in accordance with appropriate state statutes of the state of North Carolina. That concludes the budget ordinance presentation.
Okay, and this opens our public comment period. Do we have anyone sign up?
The Vice Chair.
Sorry?
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now we have our public comments period, and no one has signed up. No one signed up for public comments.
It's a public hearing.
You have to sign up to speak at a public hearing?
Do you want to speak?
Yes, I do.
Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Edward Gleason. I live at 1973 Bowles Avenue in Creedmoor, North Carolina. And again, I understand these are comments, so I know that I'm not going to get too much of a response back, but I just want my comments to be heard. And every time you spoke about something else, I got another question. The last question was it showed in the budget there would be an increase in water revenue and sewer revenue, both at $200,000. My assumption would be if you got $200,000 more dollars from water, you should get something like $600,000 or $400,000 from sewer. Because again, the revenues are not equal. So equal doesn't make sense there. My questions are, you're using $1.3 million from the fund balance. Since I've been coming here, and I have spoken years ago to Richard about fund balance, and we never see the fund balance. We never see what is the fund balance and what is the percentage of the fund balance compared to your budget. And we're going into a 3-year period where there's going to be major constructions. We're talking about borrowing $700+ million. I remember when we originally started the water treatment plant, it was $9 million. It wound up to be $14 million. It turned out that there was a lot of money in the fund balance, and we didn't have to borrow the money. That's great. But the bottom line is, it would be nice if we knew what the fund balance was. What happens if right now you can look at interest revenue at $850,000? That could change in a moment's notice. And that 850 go to 400,000, so that's another 400,000. So I guess my question is, anticipating the next 3 years, are you anticipating that there's going to need to be more revenue than anticipated, like the water treatment plant for the new 85 sewer project? And how is that going to be funded? And is there a plan for the future if you use all of the fund balance? I come here every meeting, and every meeting there's a budget amendment. Every meeting there's a budget amendment where you're spending more money than anticipated in a previous budget. So I guess my final question is, last year's budget used fund balance for part of the revenue. Was all of that money spent, or was more money or less money spent that was supposedly spent? And are you anticipating there's going to be enough fund balance to continue using it for budget purposes, or sooner or later, the fund balance would have to run out? I mean, it's not pituitary. So that's just my statement, and I hope that that's all looked at for future. Thank you.
Lynn Bailey, 221 12th Street in Putnam. First of all, I want to say thank you for no
If you will state your name and address for the record. Or
Didn't I just do that?
You did?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
You can hear us. I want to say thank you for no rate increase. That's a marvellous development. And now I'm going to play the Grinch. I was looking at the 29% for the employees and benefits, HR, and I know I'm not allowed to ask a question, but I would like to kind of know the rationale behind increasing the 401k match by 1%. That seems somewhat like a luxury as opposed to a necessity. I mean, most places are 3 to 4%. And the other thing is that the medical insurance out-of-pocket cap, when this was first discussed and implemented last year, you weren't sure how many people would actually start participating. And I think we only had one family at the time that was actually on the family plan. My question or query is, how much did that ultimately end up costing SGWASA to subsidise those premiums, and whether we should look at whether that's maintaining it or is that a line item? I don't see it in any line item anywhere on how much it's actually costing SGWASA to subsidise this. Again, thank you about the rates, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further comments? Anyone else want to come forward? So if we have no further on this, we will adjourn the public hearing, and that puts us back in open session. And now we'll go to comments from our executive director.
So thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. A couple of items this evening. First of all, I'd just like to thank my team for their great input and their assistance in preparing the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget. It's a long process that starts in September, October of each year, actually, to get here to this evening. And we get through many finance committee meetings, and there's a lot of information, obviously, that we present. And you saw part of that this evening in the presentation that I made. So, again, thank you for your great input in helping build this budget. And that includes our assistant executive director, Chris Summerlin, our finance director, Richard Balmer, our assistant finance director, Ruben Carden, our HR manager, Priscilla Adcott, and then our superintendents, water distribution and wastewater collection. Robert Jackson is here this evening. Thank you, Robert. Jonathan Yancey, our water treatment superintendent, and Cody Norwood, our wastewater treatment superintendent. I would also like to thank Crystal Lee, our PIO, for all the information that you put together for us and the production work. And also our project manager, Joel Coates, is here, as well as all the managers and supervisors who assisted in the lengthy process to get us where we are this evening. So thank you very much to my team for that. I-85 project update. CP number 1 is under construction and going very well. The new Joe Pete pump station. They're looking to do some rock blasting this Thursday afternoon. We will post information on our website and push information out to all of our local communities and safety forces regarding this activity, which will be Thursday afternoon. In terms of CP number 2, this project is currently being advertised for bid. Bids are scheduled to be opened on May 22nd at 2 p.m. In terms of I-85 project updates, a lot of information is on our website. Great timely information is out there, notifications. So please navigate to our website and sign up for alerts. Those are important so that you get those email alerts. That's where we use that to provide information. In terms of project updates for the board, would you like to have a quarterly presentation by our engineering firm just to give you an overview of the status, the things that we've completed in the last 30, 60 days and what's ahead of us in terms of the next 60, 90 days, where we would have our engineer come in and do a formal presentation for you just to keep you updated? And I was suggesting on a quarterly basis. I'm not sure if the board wants a monthly report, we can do that as well as far as a presentation. But I thought the timing wise, at least once a quarter for the next 2.5 years may be worthwhile to the board. So I look for any input from the board members regarding that so we can work on a schedule to meet your needs for updates on that project. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you, board members.
Thank you. Any comments from our attorney?
No comment.
And comments from our board members. I believe our first tonight is Councilperson Judy Cheek.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Vicki Daniels.
First, I'd like to ask a question about the budget for some guidance or instruction. Commissioner Georgiana mentioned having more clarification between the weight adjustments and the composition study update. Will that be in? Can we do that to state it more clearly?
Yes, in fact, we'll be working on that. I think she had a great suggestion tonight how to wordsmith that. So as we would conclude our discussions this evening in board meeting, we will take that information. We'll bring that information back to you at the next board meeting. So you will see at the June board meeting a legislative item that's very similar to what you've seen tonight. We can do some wordsmithing and present that to you, have that discussion, and hopefully it meets your needs. If not, we can continue to wordsmith it so that if we get a motion from the board, it would include the exact language that you're looking for. But that would be our goal following tonight's meeting, is to take that information, modify it, and bring it back.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. No other comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Tim Karen.
The comment I have tonight, I appreciate the hard work and effort that all the team put into the budget preparation. Unfortunately, life gets in the way sometimes, and the next month's meeting, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners is having their annual legislative advocacy. I serve on the general government for the NCACC, so I will be down at the legislature on Tuesday and Wednesday next month. I'll be missing this meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Kenneth McLam.
I guess I'm going to answer one of Ms. Bradley's questions. I was the one that took it from 3% to 4% for a 401k, and that's somewhat to come close to matching the city of Durham's, which is currently 5%. So they did the study of trying to match local areas, and I wanted to see this come close to 5%, the same as the city of Durham offers their employees, so that people stay here and not go there.
Also, city of Durham is not matching.
Yeah, it's city of Durham just gives you 5%. They don't match any. You don't have to put anything in. They just give you 5%.
Yeah. Okay.
No further questions. No further
Okay. Our Vice Chair, Commissioner Georgiana Kaczynski.
So first, I want to thank, this has been a challenging time for our customer service department with the new billing system rolling out. And we were told about the customer service department working numerous days of overtime, sometime to the tune of 10 and 11 hour days to keep up with all the changes with the billing and to post all the payments. And I want to thank everyone that was involved in doing that. It was probably not the smoothest transition they've ever gone through, but with 3 customer service people and all the rest of the office staff from, I think Chris was involved in it, and our finance department and everything. We talk about the utility workers and all the work that they do, but to make sure these payments were posted and posted correctly, cross-matching account numbers and making sure everything was fine. I was told at one point there were 600 manual transactions that had to be done. So thanks to those who paid online and it smoothly went through like we did, and a couple other people I know, when you did your bank draft, it went through and they didn't have to touch it. But to those who paid in person, thank you. And thank you to the staff who handled everything. I know that the phones were probably ringing off the hook, but 3 people can't answer 500 phone calls. But I want to thank you all for everything you did to get that first month's billing out, and hopefully it'll get smoother from here on. The fire hydrant mechanics, I'm hoping that they can get hired within the next 3 months, 6 months at the worst. Out of 400 fire hydrants in Creedmoor, the fire department has given us a list to show that almost 1/4 of those fire hydrants have operational issues. And that concerns me, and it was brought out at our meeting, so now it concerns a lot more people. The budget process has been great to answer the fund balance question for Mr. Gleason. We have a 95% depreciation in our budget. And if I understand this correctly, Richard, please jump up and tell me to be quiet if I'm wrong. That is replacing the money that we are spending, and we're doing it at a 95% rate. We're putting money back at a 95% rate so that we don't drop down. I don't know what the fund balance is right now either, or else I would tell you. And this budget is projected, and I believe the $500 limit is for we cover our employees on their medical plan. The $500 is for family plans, right? And I don't know that we have that many people who are on that family
There
plan.
are additional tiers. You can have an employee plus spouse, employee plus child, or family, yes, right, as well. So it kind of applies across the board to those different tiers.
But we cover the health insurance of our employees. It's just the extras that go into that. I'm glad that we didn't have to raise rates just like everybody else is, because I have to pay them too. And I hope that this budget can get approved. I'm glad we're not doing it tonight because Commissioner Way is not here, not by any reason of his own, and he may have questions. So hopefully we can get those questions answered before we go forward with any further changes or approve the budget as is. And thank you, Vicki Daniels, for chairing the Finance Committee. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
No, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right. For those of you who spoke at the public hearing, your questions were recorded. Make sure Crystal has your contact information so we can answer those questions for you. And I'm sorry we weren't able to answer them on the spot. They came kind of rapid fire, and I don't think we had anybody really prepared. So anyway, we'll get those questions answered and hope we answer them to your satisfaction. Hopefully we'll get this budget process behind us. We've had the public hearing. The next thing is the formal approval of the budget, which should be at our next meeting in June. Is that correct? So that will be the big thing. We have to approve the budget before the end of June. So if we're not able to do this at the next meeting, we'll have to have a special call meeting. And it's been a long day and long night, and I won't hold us here any longer. Do we have anything for closed session? No. Oh, thank goodness. Nothing for closed session, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All right, I got a motion, two different places. I got a second. And any questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. We are adjourned. Thank you all.